Hi, and welcome to the beloved Community Innovation School Grants MLK Day of Service webinar on impact reporting. I want to thank you for taking the time to review this video. My hope is that by the end of it, you will feel more confident moving forward with your data collection process and have a clear understanding of what the timeline and requirements for impact reporting will be. My name is Sarah Wilson. I'm the Education Manager here at YSA. A little bit about my background. I was born and raised in Northern Virginia. I graduated from Clemson University. And before joining YSA, I was a special education teacher and department chairperson in Bertie County in Eastern North Carolina. If you have additional questions or concerns following this video that pertain to your specific event or project, feel free to email me at swilson@ysa.org or find me on Twitter at SarahWWilson1. If you go back to the MOU signed by your school, you will find a section on reporting. It gives a general overview of what the expectations and requirements are. However, today I want to go into a little bit more detail about those requirements. We do impact reporting for a couple reasons. First, we want to measure your school's individual impact and also determine the collective impact made on the communities as a whole. And most importantly, we want to spotlight the hard work and accomplishments of your students in school. We know that this has been a long process from start to finish, and we want to make sure that you receive the recognition for the work that you've done for your communities. So before we begin talking about the deadlines that will occur after the MLK Day event, I want to review some preliminary reporting requirements. The first was a registration form that was sent out by my colleague Scott Gansky. I do have that form completed for every school as of today, so that's not something that you need to go back and check on at this time. The second requirement was by Friday, January 8th, 2016, all schools should have their projects registered on the All for Good organization website and directly with the Corporation for National and Community Service. If you have questions or concerns about how to register your project with either of these organizations, feel free to reach out to me either by phone, email, or Twitter. All right, so let's talk about the deadlines for reporting. The first deadline is Tuesday, January 19, 2016 at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is the deadline for immediate reporting. The second deadline is Friday, January 29, 2016 at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is the deadline for the final follow-up reporting. I want to begin by talking about the immediate reporting deadline, which is on Tuesday, January 19th, the day directly following MLK Day. For this particular deadline, we're only asking for an overview of particular items. First, we're asking for the project date, location, and the duration of the event. If you have more than one date, location, or duration, we ask that you include all the applicable details for your service project. Next, we ask for the number of volunteers, and this can include all students and adults who participated in any aspect of your service event. Next, we ask for a list of links to any media coverage, articles, or stories that have to do with your service activity. And we ask for a list of names of public officials or administration who attended or participated in any aspect of your service event. Finally, we're asking for the project output numbers. This gives us an overview of the impact made by your students in your school. It's the same information that you filled out during the initial application process. The project output numbers can include a variety of options. For example, if you are conducting a canned food drive, here are a list of project output numbers that would be applicable to your project. The number of cans collected, the number of organizations benefiting from the donations, the number of students or individuals who donated items to your canned food drive, or the number of funds that were collected. Those are just several examples that are specific to one particular project. The most important thing is that your project output numbers are specific to your project and that they capture the range and the depth of the impact made by your school and your students. For this immediate reporting deadline, we're not asking for any documentation of these particular items. However, please keep it on your radar as we will be asking for evidence and documentation of these numbers during the final reporting deadline. To report these items, you will be filling out the registration form. The registration form is similar to the registration form you filled out before receiving your grant checks. Here you can see it asks for the project date, location, and the time frame. It also asks for the number of volunteers. There will be additional columns where you can put the list of links to media coverage, the list of names of public officials or administration who attended your event, and columns for your project output numbers. Next, I want to talk about the final reporting deadline, which is on July 29th. During this deadline, you will fill out a form with the following items: verification of the project output numbers along with evidence and documentation of these output numbers. And lastly, a final budget and purchase receipts or a general ledger. First, let's talk about the project output numbers. As I previously mentioned, these output numbers should be specific to your particular service activity and should capture the range and the depth of the impact made by your school and students. Here's a list of examples that may be applicable to your particular service project. However, please make sure that you modify them if they don't meet the criteria for your project. In addition to the verification of your project output numbers, we are also seeking evidence or documentation of these numbers. Here's a table that gives you a list of examples of project output items, as well as acceptable pieces of evidence or documentation. The first most important piece of output is the number of volunteers. For this, acceptable evidence or documentation can include a sign-in sheet or an attendance log, which you'll use at each location, date, or duration of your service event. Another really important piece of evidence and documentation we will be seeking is from the project output of the name of the benefiting organization or organizations. For this, an acceptable piece of evidence could include a signed form or certificate of receipt from the benefiting organizations. This allows us to verify that the donations or contributions that your school is making have been received by the beneficiaries. On this table, there's a few other examples that might be specific to a particular project. It should give you an idea of what types of project output numbers and what types of acceptable evidence we will be collecting during this final deadline. The last item we will be collecting during this final deadline will be the final budget and documentation. We ask that you resubmit a final budget and include purchase receipts or a general ledger. To review, we covered the two deadlines for reporting, the first being Tuesday, January 19th, and the second being Friday, January 29th, which will be a final follow-up reporting, which will include collection of evidence and documentation of your numbers. If you have any questions about the information contained in this presentation, please don't hesitate to reach out to me via phone or email. I'm happy to set up a time that we can go over the specifics of your particular project to make sure that you feel confident and comfortable in your data collection process.